may not know. Welcome to Knowledge and Nonsense. My name is Sharon Combs. I am joined by Tiffany Wyatt, who is guest hosting / panelist with us today as we continue our talk about EQ in the workplace, emotional intelligence in the workplace. It's been quite a week. We miss LaWayne, but we hope he's out there having a great time and enjoying his weekend, getting some sunshine, doing what he does. But yeah, Tiffany, how are you today?
Good morning. Good morning. How's everyone on Knowledge and Nonsense? It is my honor to hang out with you today, Sharon. And LaWayne, I hope you are enjoying your relaxation because they got work for you to do when you get back. How about that?
How about that? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. All right, guys. So a couple of weeks ago, we had Candace Kaufman on, and we were talking about EQ in the workplace. Today, we're going to be joined for part 2 with that. We have Marjorie Wall with us. We also have Sarah B. Cruz with us. And again, we're just talking about emotional intelligence. What is it? Is it a buzzword? Is it something that's really needed? And why would it benefit you and me in the workplace? So without further ado, we're going to give our panelists just a second so that they can know they're coming online. And when we come back, we will have Sarah with us, and we will also have Marjorie with us. So you guys bring your questions. We will bring some answers. And yeah, let's get into this on Women's Month. We'll be right back. And we're back. Hello, and welcome to Knowledge and Nonsense. It's so good to see you both again, Sarah and Marjorie.
Good morning, ladies.
Well, it's Women's Month. It's Women's Month. So off the cuff, before we even get into emotional intelligence, it's Women's Month. As someone who has been just proven, day in and day out, being a female in workspaces, when you hear about Women's Month, like how does that, do you feel like, oh, here they go, highlighting us again? Are you like, yeah, kick butt, rock on, what's up with it, take names, how we doing this? How do you feel when you hear Women's Month? I'll start with Sarah, off the cuff.
Yes, thanks, Sharon. I am very appreciative for the month dedicated to all the phenomenal females that I've had the chance to get acquainted with and know even more in personal. It's been such a huge opportunity for me to see representation for not just my gender identity, but also for individuals that mirror a lot of my personal intentions for myself professionally. And I think it's the inclusivity and diversity that's growing with what Women's Month is, the she, her, they, thems, identifying, cis, I'm for it. And I just love to see the grouping together and the support we have in this space, especially in sterile processing with equal representation. And listen, shout out to the phenomenal females. Let's go, right?
Let's go. How about you, Marjorie? You've been in the sterilization industry for a bit now. What do you think when you hear Women's Month?
Yeah, so first of all, Sharon, I have to say I love the energy that you guys are bringing this morning. It's 7 a.m. and I am trying to wake up. No, well, you guys know SPD people, we start early, but it's still Saturday.
Right.
So when I think Women's Month, I think so much pride for what we've accomplished and how we're continuing to grow and find our voices and break glass ceilings. I know it's hard. I think it's kind of bittersweet because we really shouldn't have to celebrate. It should just be, if that makes sense. But I still find a lot of pride, and I'm very proud of our industry and how far we've come. We're seeing more keynote speakers that are female. We're seeing more women directors, managers, and I'm looking for those women to keep growing into COOs and CEOs. So I think it's a really powerful thing that's happening in the industry right now.
I love it. Tiffany, Women's Month. Tiffany is the CEO of a media company called Corbett Mitchell. It is a dynamic media company. He's worked with everyone from Toyota to me sometimes. So just runs the gamut. Great execution, great ideas. Tiffany, when you hear Women's Month, how do you feel about it?
I feel phenomenal. You have to think back to what that means, right? They put a little woo in front of a man, right? So I feel like we have to make certain that we are in a I think in a space where we understand that we are not the same, right? And whether you're a woman, whether you're a man, you come with your own set of special, powers, so to say, right? And I think that women are starting to empower one another, but more importantly, they're finding the power within themselves. Right?
Yeah.
And power means different things to different people. But I think power is about being confident as who you are right now, right? There's nothing like celebrating who you are right now before you get to who you want to become, right? So it's all in the art of becoming. So it's the 12th day of Women's History Month. I'm super excited to be here, but I'm super empowered to be around other women who are, setting off and firing into their own creative destiny of what it is their journey is to them, right? So
Right.
I'm excited, and thanks for having me.
Oh man, I'm so glad you're here. So when we hear the word EQ, it's emotional intelligence. Do you know I was speaking with someone 2 weeks ago in the sterilization in the healthcare industry, sterilization. And I was like, well, it really demonstrates something that happened. And I was like, it really demonstrates the need for emotional intelligence. And the person I was talking to was like, well, what's that? And they were so serious. And I was like, okay, I love what I get to do for these reasons. Because emotional intelligence is such an important part of everything you do, like of everything you do. And so when I say EQ in the workplace, definitely, like I said, it's Women's Month. If we can just peel it back for a second and empower individuals inside of the workplace. What is a benefit? Like, is something that EQ, does it really need to be? Tiffany, and I definitely want you to come from your experience, what you've seen as a CEO, as a person before you became a CEO, as an employee. Marjorie, you too. Like, we here. It is Saturday morning. It's early. I'm drinking coffee myself. We here. Let's do this thing. So yes, as a female, like, is EQ something that we need in the workplace? I'm gonna start with you, Marjorie. Is it something that you really feel like is necessary in the workspace?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely critical. So one of the things about me is I built my career turning around underperforming departments. I mean, that's kind of a known thing. I'm process improvement, innovation driver. I do advanced technology. I do every crazy thing you can imagine. But not one of those things would be successful if it wasn't for the people behind the processes and the people driving all of that technology, all of that innovation, all of that process improvement and new ideas and challenging the status quo. And part of what gets people is remembering their people, remembering to understand who they are, how they approach things, what they're feeling, what they need, what support they need to be successful. And all of that comes down to emotional intelligence.
It does. It does. And so I'm gonna come back to a question. Can we spin off that question right there? Or are you guys, I'll come back for your answers. As a female, not only as a female, because we're not pigeonholed, I don't believe anyone is one-dimensional. If you think somebody's one-dimensional, you're missing out on 90% of that person. Let me just throw that out there. But as a female in the workplace, have you ever had to like navigate internally, wondering what somebody's going to think because you do show feelings or emotional, or you say something like, well, that's not emotional intelligence, because we are coming out of different stages of organizational structures, and we are females, and we're like, well, we have to be concerned about their feelings. Like in healthcare, How do you navigate that and still be concerned about feelings while also at the same time as being the credible, competent, accomplished professional that you are? I'm
Oh,
coming
that
right to
was,
you, Marjorie. Yeah, boom, we're
yeah.
loading guns today. This coffee is working.
Yeah, that was the question to ask me at 7 a.m. on a Saturday, let me tell you. So I'm going to be honest with you. I will never forget getting an eval where on my eval it said, and it was an excellent eval. I had an excellent performance rating. I was a superstar, super accomplished. And there was this one sentence that said, "You are an emotional leader. You bounce back and course correct quickly. But for you to continue growing and developing, you need to improve on your like not being an emotional leader." And I'll never forget that because I was like, what? Because that's a strength, right? Being, and when I say emotional leader, I don't mean you're running around the hospital crying. I'm sorry, this cat just wants to join in the conversation.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
I
it
like what
doesn't,
you're saying though.
yeah, it doesn't mean you're running around being emotional, getting upset, crying, or being angry. And to be clear, it's okay to cry. But it means that you remember who people are and you're able to respond to them as a human and you're able to show empathy, sympathy, and engage and support them and set them up for successful. And showing emotions is a strength at work. That's how we build relationships, it's how we build trust, and it's how we build engagement.
All
So
right.
I feel strongly on that one.
All right. You ladies have any way in there on the emotion at work, how much you can show, how much you can't? What I love about knowledge and nonsense is we have these conversations, real conversations. We don't always have to agree, but we always hear one another, you know? And I just love that.
Well,
Uh
I think that she's right on the money. I think that kind of what I do in my experience, it's I think that as a woman, they teach you one of the first, business 101s is you gotta leave emotion out of business, right?
Mhm.
And so that is what we've been taught since before we even were in business. So you have those episodes where when you do get emotional, you are penalized for it, so to say, and it's like you try to hold that emotion in. I remember working at a when I had my son, and I went back to work, and I was trying to navigate that space, and I finally was like, no, I do not want. I need to be at home with my son, and that was the decision I made internally. But when I went to work anyway, I went back anyway, and a few weeks into it, I realized like I got to resign. I'm over it, right? And one of my best friends at the time at the station, he comes into me and I said, "Hey, I'm going to," he just looked at me. He's like, "No, no, no, no," because he knew I was about to hand in my resignation, and I wanted to get emotional. He said, "You're not going to cry. Get it together," and I got it together. But let me tell you something, because we had the most hardcore manager at the time. I mean, he was hardcore, and he came into me, and finally I was like, I need to talk to you, and he came into me. Do you know that he cried? And it was the most like craziest thing. And the point about it, he's like, kiddo. I was like, what? And the point about it is, I had been really good there, and I did a really well job. But he knew it was time for me to move on, and I knew it was time for me to move on, right? And that was a big, a big deal because he was emotionless as a
Mhm.
manager, right? But
Mhm.
what I'm saying is, it taught me a lot. It taught me that is show up as yourself, right?
Mhm.
Because a part of emotional intelligence is not only self-regulation, but it's self-awareness. And as women, we are naturally nurturers, right? And
Mhm.
what will happen as you navigate your career path and your situations and your experiences, you will know when to pour in and you will know when to hold up just a second, right? Because people can manipulate your emotion as well.
Mhm. I like
Definitely.
how you mentioned the self-awareness aspect because that was a huge proponent for myself in actively addressing technician ego. My technician's ego is very much driven by that aspect. Like I am, the more I become emotionally aware and self-aware, the more I can effectively navigate how I'm expressing myself and where my ego is shining through, dare I say, right? So I really appreciate the self-awareness. And I think it's important to recognize that emotional IQ is something that can be tangible. It can be trained. You can create quantifiable and significant ways to represent when you're growing emotionally. And it's not just dictated by this idea of crying or not crying, because there's so many in between emotions, and that the more you
Yes.
identify with them, see how you personify them in yourself and professionally, the more you can raise empathy to try and understand where someone else is coming from to be a more effective leader. And that's why I like how Marjorie said, being an emotional leader is personally a strength, but now how you present that aspect is what really gives us that woo, right? That whoa and man. Yeah. I like to shout out Tiffany because I really liked that opening. So it was like, oh yeah, I like that.
Yes.
So I can really appreciate that whole self-awareness aspect. And like sometimes I feel like the pause is the most effective, like that hard stop, like just take a second, resonate with how you're feeling. Is it reactive? What's the source it's coming from? And then how are you going to present that so it can effectively move you towards your goals instead of your emotionals running you away from your goals, right? So
Yeah.
that's how I like to elevate that aspect in self-awareness.
And I think as a leader, just to chime in with that is as a leader, you have to it's like being a parent. Every child is different in the way they perceive and receive love, right? So your love has to be specific to that child. So the same thing happens with leadership, right? A lot of people think every employee you can treat the same, every situation you can treat the same, every realistically, even clientele, it's all a cookie cutter. It's not, because there's different needs that need to be quantified for them to feel validated, right? Because someone showing up and doing their job every day, that is them doing their job. Someone who has emotional intelligence, a strong emotional intelligence, people are going to show up and do a great job. There's a difference. They're going to say, hey, guess what? Let me know, girl, I'm going to be late to happy hour because let me get this done real quick for her. Why?
Yes.
Because there's a difference, because you're taken care of. You feel appreciated and you feel of value, right? And that stems from the emotional intelligence that pours down. Notice I said pours, I didn't say trickles.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
that pours
Floods.
down. Right. If I have a coffee cup, it is trickling versus pouring in your. So that the same thing is it should pour down in your organization. They should be cognizant of it when they walk in the door. They should feel that emotional intelligence, because that is the difference between them doing their job and doing a great job.
I love that. I definitely want us to lean in there. I feel like we should take a commercial, but this conversation is so good. Maybe let's push it out 10 minutes. We'll take that commercial at 9:30 because we have that wiggle room right now. But yeah, what are ways that people can feel that emotional intelligence? Like, how can that manifest without us using the term? Because as I said a couple of weeks ago, when I said the term, the person literally was like, what is that? And this person is sharp. You hear me? Sharp. Like Cracker Jack's sharp. And I was like, wow, you haven't. And so what are ways, without using the word emotional intelligence, like what are ways that we see emotional intelligence, or that your team feels that? Because I am a fan that you can fight for compliance with your team, or you can gain commitment. And commitment is what's going to have you call and say, hey, I'll be there a little bit later. Let me help her get done with this, But if you fight for compliance only, it's like, you're going to do it, I'm in charge. Then what's going to happen at 2:57? Someone's taking a bathroom break and they're clocking out exactly at 3:00, regardless of what work is left, because that's the environment you've created, And that's one of the most heartbreaking things, is when leadership doesn't get that. So let's lean into that. What are ways that your team may be experiencing emotional intelligence, or ways that you can engage in it without saying, I'm trying to be emotionally intelligent here? Like, you guys understand the question? Anything coming up? Shall I go to a commercial and get
Well, yeah. Well, I think emotional intelligence is buy-in at the end of the day. You're getting someone to buy into your ideology. You're getting them to buy in to the way we do things over here. Emotional intelligence tells me that, hey, guess what? Me and Sarah could do the same thing every morning, but just because we do it a different way, we achieve the same goals. right?
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
your emotional intelligence says that, hey, guess what? Um, I don't need you to necessarily do it. I need you to buy into the way we're doing it over here. That doesn't mean I don't respect the way you do things, but
Mhm.
far as the way that it works better over here and what we're doing to achieve our most efficient and effective, strategy, I need you to rock with us like this, right?
Mhm.
And those things that help people to do that is company culture, right? How do you interject into your company culture things that make people feel appreciated? How do
Mhm.
you make certain that, as they're walking around the building, those key factors of whatever your pillars are injected into the way they see, right, things on a regular basis, and that you remind them that, hey, you are special, right, or you matter, or you're not invisible. I
Mhm.
think it's different for different people. I know I'm not in healthcare, but I do serve a healthcare board for Blue Cross Blue Shield. And one thing is they have this huge campus when you go out to Richardson, Texas. And when I tell you, every time I go out there, I'm like, wow, because they always have, if it's Women's History Month, if it whatever month it is, there's going to be a humongous poster at the whole. I mean, it's huge. It goes stairs cases up, right? And it's always going to say we're celebrating someone, regardless if it's Indian American Month, if it's Black History Month, if it's Women's History Month, LGBTQ. They're always celebrating something. And when you walk around their campus, whenever they have collateral someplace or signage, it's always multicultural, it's super diverse. And I love that, right? But that lets their company know and the people that work with them, hey, you are not invisible. And I think that's
Mhm.
super important. It can be simple as collateral signage, but I just think it needs to be consistent, and it needs to be communicated as far as your messaging. And there needs to have continuity wherever you are. Your messaging is the same.
I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of truth to that, a lot of truth to really understanding your people and how to recognize them and motivate them.
Mm.
Um, but a big piece of it is really understanding your people to that individual level, because not all recognition is the same. Not all
Mhm.
people respond to recognition the same way. So you really have to get to know your people and know what works for them and what responds to them. A lot of the times, it doesn't matter how much management recognizes someone at shift huddle or gives them an award. They may not even want that, but having peer-to-peer recognition or having a side, hey, I saw what you did today.
Mhm.
Um, that doctor really needed those instruments and we couldn't find them. And I saw you just kind of like low key in the background, go look for them and figure out where they were and get that situation handled. And, that just really made such a big impact to, the team and to me. And I really appreciate and thank you for what you did. Sometimes those kind of conversations can mean so much more to people than, another like token recognition or recognition of the month or pizza party or whatever.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's really getting to that individual level and knowing what they need, for them to know how important they are to you and to the team.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I really like how you articulated that individuals need different types of recognition because as an educator in my position, I try to make sure that I'm including like the 4 ways of learning, right? Like kinesthetic, audio, written, or, visual. So you do all that to try and create successful outcomes and really give the individual who's learning the opportunity to not just learn the way that they need, but to reiterate the information effectively because they've learned effectively, right? So it's the same type of mindset that we can bring for opportunities of success in emotional intelligent presentation. So you're literally not literally putting them in a position to demonstrate emotional intelligence, but giving them that space to take the lessons that they've learned from past experiences to try again, right? So, for example, Marjorie had mentioned the one-on-one conversation. That is an effective way to recognize and praise. And Tiffany has outlined the overall grouping of a lot of people don't like that singled out, but would rather be represented as a group for recognition, right? Then there's also the person that needs that literal, like, hey, I have this soft skill assessment on your emotional intelligence, and you're not really effective at giving courageous conversation. Let's work on that. They literally need to see it on a report card. That's me, by the way. So like, and then lastly, you have the individual that will go and tell you when they were emotional intelligent. They'll be like, oh man, this person came up to me and I was about to tell them and I didn't. I came into this office to talk to you instead. So those are big instances where we can recognize emotional intelligence without actually saying, wow, you're really emotional intelligent.
Yes.
And I think it really fits into this concept that Marie Brewer taught me about with just culture. And I'm not saying Marie Brewer created just culture, but the way she articulates it it really served my learning style. And when we break into creating emotional, intelligent opportunities in our culture, so, you're going to have those individuals that, they're just not going to jive. Unfortunately, like the four of us, it's not like this in every department, right? So how do you effectively help them? Well, maybe you put them on a task together towards a common goal. There's an opportunity. It's uncomfortable, right? But you're still giving them that space to say, listen, we realize that you guys kind of have friction, but I really need you to come together to work on this task. How can I support you? And then guide them through becoming more emotional intelligent. So, opportunities for success, I think, are important and uncomfortable.
Yeah. Okay. So we have just a little bit of time. I love what Sarah said. Sarah, I'm going to push back on that just a bit. Please be sure that you understand emotional intelligence before you put the individuals in that group like that. Don't be afraid to do it, because what you said at the end was, and guide them through. So if you're going to guide, if you're going to be the hiking guide, you must know the trail, or at least how to read the signs on said trail. Because again, emotional intelligence, one thing about emotions, if you get poked in them and you're not ready, you can you can react versus respond. But I love everything that you said. For the supervisors, managers, whatever your role is in whatever industry, just know this is an investment on your part too, with a huge return. But you do have to be hands-on if you're going to help your team grow. You can't be hands way back here, laissez-faire,
Right.
and expect your team to grow in the way that you want, or to create the team you want if you're laissez-faire. It means you'll be in Q1 most of your time putting out fires because you're hands off. So anytime you're on, you're putting out a fire. So I do love it. Let's take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're gonna have a PSA, because Marjorie actually is president-elect of an organization called HSPA, formerly known as ISHM, some 40,000 members. So listen, no one on this screen, everyone on the screen is speaking to you from a place where emotional intelligence and knowing it, navigating it, has allowed them to ascend career ladders and bring business into other areas in their life. So check out what we're saying. Send us some questions. I see you guys out there watching. Put the comments in there. Give us some hearts. Give us some love. Share the video. And if you have a question or comment, let us know. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Want to definitely take care of the sponsors.
Those in the know SIPS Consults. SIPS Consults is hiring. Confident, competent, and consistent. Starting as a consultant and a volunteer, SIPS has grown into a dynamic group of stellar sterile processing professionals, offering excellent benefits, 401k, and consultant in training program. We are hiring certified technicians, leads, supervisors, interim managers, educators, coordinators. Apply at recruiting@sipsconsults.com or dial 1-866-615-7977.
All right, and we're back. Right now, I definitely want you guys to see Sarah B. Cruz, CSS Nerd. You guys have seen her. She is still processing. If you're reading the Process magazine, you've heard her on Livecast, podcast, and she's going to take about a quick 2 minutes maybe. Sarah, you are actually running for something in your organization, HSPA. And if you're part of HSPA, formerly known as ISHM, get out and vote. Your voice is your vote. If you're talking about it in the break room, talk about it in the ballot box. Okay, I'm through. Sarah, you had some things you wanted to say? You wanted to share with the audience?
Thank you so much, Sharon. So I just want to recognize Knowledge and Nonsense for helping me bridge the gap between the frontline technician and the industry that represents them. I love the platform, and it's no nonsense, nuts and bolts, actionable ways to gain traction in your professional development. That's what's up, Sharon. I am really excited to announce that I have been nominated by all the amazing sterile processing colleagues in my space to run for the board of directors for the HSPA. Yay! So I wanted to take this time to formally introduce myself to anybody out there who would like to know more about what that looks like. Part of my campaign is that I want individuals to know what a director does at the HSPA. Why is it important to vote for your board of directors, all the way up from the director level, secretary, and even the president, which we have Marjorie Wall on our show today as the president-elect. So as an HSPA director, the primary purpose of my hopefully future role, thanks to all of you guys, is that we help guide the association in the effective execution of their mission, vision, and purpose. Obviously, doing the nitty gritty with voting on finances and making sure that the incentives in place line up with our mission statement. But a lot of it, and what I personally ascribe to, is the purpose of the HSPA. I myself am very purpose driven. And when we talk about communication, advocacy, representation, professional opportunities, that is Sarah B. Cruz, CSS Nerd. I take great pride in representing what we do on the front line inside of this awesome social media space, as well as in the upper level executive rooms that I work amongst. So not always in a polo, always putting on a scrub, wearing my bouffant and getting into decon, okay? So at this point in time, I just wanted to let you all know that if you had any questions about how the HSPA relays and helps you promote yourself professionally, I want to be that liaison. So in my campaign, I just leaving it wide open to everybody. Shoot me a message if you want to learn more about how the HSPA effectively helps you become the professional you want to be, because that's what it is, folks. It's not just sterile processing technician. It is sterile processing professional. Shout out to hashtag say it loud. We are here. Our voice matters. And the more we articulate a singular message of professional development, the more resonation it will have in the halls of the healthcare industry. Remember, folks, if you don't have a table, build it, make your own seat, and the rest will come. I'm really excited for this opportunity, and thank you all.
Yay! Okay, guys, you heard it. That is Sarah B. Cruz. So when you're looking at that ballot, you have a face with the name. And please, again, vote. 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 Vote, vote, vote. You know, you hear things in the hallways of social media. You hear things in the hallways, like you said, of hospitals. Vote. There's far too many members for us not to allow our voices to be heard. All right, and we're back, and we're talking about emotional intelligence in the workplace. We're here with Marjorie Wall, president-elect of said association Sarah is talking about, HSPA, Tiffany Wyatt, president and CEO of Corbett Mutual Media, myself, Sharon Combs, UCDI Leadership and Knowledge and Nonsense, and Sarah Cruz of Pre-Treat CSS. Today, we're talking about EQ in the workplace. It's Women's Month. My coffee has kicked in, and I'm here for it. Before we left, we were really talking about just engagement and what that looks like. And Sarah, you recapped beautifully the things that have been said. So back with EQ in the workplace, I want to say, is anybody okay sharing a time where EQ, like emotional intelligence, you know that it improved your outcome? Oh. And then I'm going to type a question into the comment box so y'all aren't surprised by when I answer it. Can anybody remember a time where for you or someone within your arm's reach sphere of influence, not just something you read in a case study, real time, this really happened, where you know you having emotional intelligence, the ability to hold your form, so to speak, improved an outcome? Is it okay if I start with Marjorie? We'll go Marjorie, then Tiffany, then Sarah. Popcorn it that way.
It's perfect. So I will share a story, but I'm also going to kind of share how I start mentoring and training new leaders to show emotional intelligence. And when we're starting that process, we're looking at bias. So if I'll give you a specific example, one of my leaders was struggling with an employee that was going home at night. And the employee was just like, I have to go, I have permission, I'm leaving. And then they, walked out of the department without much conversation, much more than that. And it happened 3 times on an off shift before the supervisor brought it to my attention with what's going on. Does this person have permission? And then started having kind of an escalating conversation to the point where they were having a very strong conversation on the floor. So I spoke with the supervisor for a while, and I taught her this tool that I like to use called Stop, Challenge, and Choose. And that's where you have a feeling, you think this person is gaming you. You think they're gaming the system. Maybe they're doing time card fraud. Maybe they're taking advantage of you because you're a new leader. So you have this biased mindset of what you think is going on in that situation. So you want to stop yourself from responding in that moment while you're experiencing this emotion and you're experiencing this bias. You want to challenge your own thought process, and then you want to choose a pathway that's going to lead to the outcome that you need. And the outcome that you need is a strong, trusting relationship with this employee. Doesn't mean there's no accountability, doesn't mean we put all that out the window, but it means we need to approach the situation in a way that we can hear their truth and what's going on with them in the situation and support them or hold them accountable depending on the situation. So with her, we talked through the situation, and we were able to kind of build a script for how to approach this employee. And it was, hey, Sarah, how are you doing? You've been such a good supporter for me since you've been in this organization, or since I've been in this organization. I know I'm new. I noticed over the last week, there's been a pattern where you've been leaving early and it's been kind of abrupt. And you said that you have permission and you're leaving. Is everything going on, or is everything okay? Is anything new going on? Kind of try to open up that conversation. And through this process, the employee disclosed that they were having a situation with a chronic health condition and it wasn't being managed well. And we were able, we were able to talk through it and get them some support and some accommodation so that they were able to be successful in their job. And through that process, though, we built trust with the employee. Whereas if we would have just called them into the office and started writing them up for leaving early without permission, it would have been trust breaking, right? Yes. So by this new leader approaching that employee in that way, she was able to build a closer relationship. And now she's got an advocate on the team that knows that she's going to treat each individual as a human being and support them in the appropriate way possible. I've seen situations like that be handled much worse, and you end up with a disengaged employee that will not support you. So I'm very proud of her.
Hey, listen, replay this in your ear. Replay this in the evenings when you're putting together trades, when you're putting your business plan and vision plans. Replay this when you're like, I want to be a better man. I want to improve so that I can be a better leader, manager, supervisor, because what Marjorie just said, for free, is a game changer. That's a bombshell. That's a real tangible tool that you can use to help you navigate this thing called leadership and grow your team at the same time. I don't have an explosion. Shout out to the process. But if I had one right there, boom, boom,
period.
Boom. Marjorie, you know what? You are one of those walk softly with a big stick. I'm ducking every time you speak. Yes, all that. I'm sorry, I got caught up. Who's next? Who did I say was next? Tiffany. You get to go after that. Yes, you do.
Listen, I can't. She done dropped the mic on me. I don't know what to say. I think I'm done for the day. I think that what we do, especially because I've worked in entertainment for a long time with broadcast, so we work with a lot of personalities, especially
Big
Big
one.
personalities,
Oh my
right?
God, big ones.
Whether they're on the radio station, whether they're actual entertainers, etc. So I think we run into it probably all the time, right? But I think that it's super important. I remember I was working someplace and a manager, a friend of mine came to me and they're like, I cannot. She was about to fire this girl, right? And I was just like, but you guys all have been cool. And she's like, yeah, but she always leaves it for lunch and she's been gone for like 2.5 hours. And this has started like a month ago, and I was just like, yeah, but I was like, instead of ignoring her, figure out what it is. And she didn't want to talk to her. She just was kind of disappointed in her behavior, and we all get caught up because we're trying to get all these tasks done, right? I was like, nah, I was like, I just feel like she's been there a long time. I was like, you've been real cool. She's always been a top producer. I was like, I need you to stop, right? And figure out, what tools have you provided for self-awareness, right? I was like, what have you really did to check in with her, right? Come to find out she'd been going to chemo. And
Wow.
she didn't want anyone to know.
Wow.
Yeah. And she didn't want anyone to know because she had not told her children. So what I'm telling you is that everyone's situation is different. Don't get me wrong. You just got some people that's lazy and they going out to lunch having cocktails. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is I think it's like you have to, as a leader, you have to say, how can I make certain that I've created pockets that give people the opportunity to provide us the true story, right? Because that said a lot about trusting, right? It said a lot about their trust, even though they had been they had worked together for over 2 years. It was still the fact that she didn't want anyone, her kids, to know. She didn't want her kids to, have that burden. And sometimes you're so close, you become such close work friends that you don't want anyone else to know. So she didn't want to tell her, hey, because she thought she would feel sorry for her and then, say,
Yeah.
well, what can I do to help? Let me talk to your husband and your kids. No. So at the end of the day, she was trying to navigate that space by herself. And it was more than her just taking a 2.5 hour lunch, And so I think it's important to figure out what tools as a leader you can to stop and figure out what's really going on. If it's abnormal behavior, there has to be something that is going on, whether it's emotionally, physically, etc. But I think it's always good to stop sometimes and figure out, for this specific situation, let me try something different versus your own emotional
Yeah.
response.
Great. Good job. Good job. You came right on in there. Okay. Okay.
Marjorie, you want to finish that?
Oh, that was perfect. I'm sorry, my throat's getting scratchy. No, you're spot on. It's remembering that our teams are human and we need to understand where they're coming from in order to set them up for success. And it's a two-way streak. When we understand where they're coming from, they're going to understand where we're coming from, and we build the trust and support, and that's where the rock star teams come from. I'm sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
No, wait, let me interrupt for 1 second. Sarah, hold your thought. Almost don't listen to me because I'm coming right to you. But what you just said, yes, about supporting the team and everything. I am just, as you guys are talking, this has come back a couple of times. I remember I was able to speak at this conference in Tennessee, and I was so excited because it was being held at a university. It was some leaders there, and I'm like, yeah, like, yeah, these powerful women. I want to go talk to everybody, because I'm, as Sarah would say, I'm fangirling, and I want to go and talk to them who have paved the way, and they've been here longer than me, and they know some stuff. I want all the answers at once. I want to eat the whole table, and I go. And one of the women, and it broke my heart because she was serious, and she was factual. I don't want to say it's correct or not, but she was definitely factual, and she just was like, women don't work with one another, so you can't work with women, and she meant it. But she'd been in her industry for a while, and it's almost like, I don't know if you guys, well, as a marginalized community for a long time, it was like, it can only be, there was this unspoken thing, it can only be one, whether it's LGBT, Black, Indian, woman, it can only be one. We've had that box has already been checked, and so when she said it, oh my God, just as the person I am, all of her pain and injustice and everything. It was like a foghorn blowing in my face. And I was so excited because I wanted to work with her partner so bad because her partner was younger and she was ready to kill the game. But she's like, ah. And I was I was just like,
Disappointed.
oh, because she was factual. So I couldn't be dismissive of what she said because she's for real. I'm looking at her war scars right at that moment. At that moment, I could see all of her scars, and I could see her on the battlefield, like on her knees, trying to get something to some place that she needed. So I definitely didn't want to be dismissive. But as you guys were just talking about that, I was like, because we do still have leaders who have that, and they're factual.
Yep.
It is a way. It's not the only way that women operate in business. Because I mean, here we are, 4 people right here. Like, let's bring some help to individuals.
Mhm.
But I just was thinking about that, and it just kept coming back. And okay, Sarah, I told you don't listen. Let's back to the question. Time with emotional intelligence. Go.
So I think in a lot of these instances, I like to speak in I statements, and you had immediately said that, and I thought of my own development in that space. And let me tell you, I was not a good leader the first time I was given a leadership opportunity because of emotional intelligence, or lack thereof, dare I say. I was not. And I effectively let my team down. And I think it's important to offer that type of transparency where it's like, I have been afforded so many opportunities to help individuals raise their emotional quotient and become the type of leaders they wanted through soft skill development. But it all started because I lacked it severely. And I watched the individuals around me suffer because of that. And in this example is I had finally become a lead tech, and not even like a legit lead tech. Like, I was acting lead when the lead was gone. So like, I'm all like, okay, it's about time. It's about time. My time to
Right.
shine. You know what I mean? And like, and that's for real. And like, listen, I'm all
I've
for
arrived
that.
now. Everything
Like,
shall be fixed.
yeah, listen, I'm all for making sure you can feel the weight of your own hand on your back, but not on your ego on your back. Okay. So first check, make sure you're giving the hand on your back and not on your ego. Okay. Make sure it's fun, like foundational, dare I say. So I'm in this position, and the lead is not there. She took vacation, and I was so excited. And I was like, all right, this is my time to show everybody how we should have been doing it this entire time. And I'm like, you're doing this. And listen, I'm going like this because it was straight up like, I don't know if y'all can hear my hand. That's how
Yes.
it was.
We can. You were
And-
hell on most people. I already know. Go ahead.
Yes. So, I'm in that space, and my emotional quotient is about as high as my ego. And I'm saying to myself, like, oh my gosh, everyone's going to be so excited because we're going to run so much more efficiently, and da, 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 da. And I'm thinking, and at the end of the day, I have a colleague, and she came up to me and she said, I can't wait until the lead comes back from vacation at the end of the first day. The first day. And I'm so grateful for this woman. And like, I'll shout her out because she don't like social media. Anyways, Miss Anna. Oh, everybody needs a Miss Anna. She came right up to me and she said, Sarah, I cannot wait until the lead comes back from vacation. And I was like, and like, it all came out of me. Like, talk about burst in a bubble. This exploded.
Yes.
There was no burst. Okay. And I immediately fell into what we've been so eloquently speaking on, is that reaction, right? And the first step in my emotional intelligence was that I did not yell at this person because they were 100% correct. And they were fair in their assessment. And the way that they brought me the information was so effective. She wasn't rude, but she didn't have to be, her words were strong enough. She didn't have to be rude. And I still remember that to this day. And that was over 8 years ago. All right. So sitting in that space, I didn't ask her opinion at first because I didn't want to know why she couldn't wait until the lead came back. So I went home that day and I cried. And my boyfriend at the time, now husband, was like, oh, listening to me. And then as I'm saying everything, I'm hearing what I'm saying. And I'm like, oh, man.
Yeah.
And I think that was the first impression of emotional intelligence, was that I was actually starting to hear what I was saying and raising empathy levels with how that may have been interpreted. So the next day I went back, and then this is that opportunity, right? Where we can either completely ignore it and pretend it never happened, or we can lean into the discomfort and learn from it
And grow.
and grow. And I went up to Miss Anna and I said, Miss Anna, why can't you wait until this person comes back? And she told me very clearly, like that way she did at the end of that day. And I took that and I said, what do you need from me while she's not here? And she told me.
Yeah.
So I am glad that you asked, because that immediately came into my mind. And just in that moment, I felt like professionally I had grown in leaps and bounds. But you bet that entire time that lead was gone, I had to make up for the damage that I had done on the very first day.
Yeah.
And owning that space, first owning your mistakes, emotional intelligence, wanting to hear how to improve emotional intelligence, not just sitting in your own pity party. I mean, sit in the pity party. It's exclusive, right? It's just you, but then get out of it.
Yeah.
And then leaning into that so one can grow. Those are all examples of growth in emotional intelligence. And actually, like, shout out to like my boyfriend, now husband, for listening to me, because I didn't know how to hear myself until I was saying it. And I know Sharon has helped me multiple times with this, where I'm like saying things to Sharon and she's going, Sarah, do you hear yourself? And I go, I know, I hate what I'm saying. And Sharon's like, okay, what are you going to do about that?
Yeah.
So that's my emotional intelligence story.
I just must put this out here too. I love what I get to do. Sarah and I do similar things, but I love, because I typically help the people who are already in leadership, especially once they come to terms with the fact that positional leadership and relational leadership are two different things. And if you fight for only positional leadership, oh my God, it's a lot of work you're going to have to do by yourself.
But I also think that leadership, it's also in who you're leading, right? Because it matters on your team. It's like, to me, is I feel like what I'm learning, especially, I think growth gives you that more than anything. Like, as you're growing, it's always, especially as an entrepreneur, you're excited. You're like, we're growing. We made it. Joe, we made it.
This year.
And so, but the thing about that is that's why they're also called growing pains, right? It's also about the team that you have around you. And as you're growing, you have to realize that your team is everything. It's going to be because it's about how they perceive information brought in, and also their response to doing what is required, right? A lot of people my dad always says, you got to pay the cost to be the boss, right? Woo! And at the end of the day, he always says, guess what? Everybody want to be the boss till the boss show up, right? And there's so much power in that, right? A lot of people want to say, oh, I'm this, I'm that, or that. But at the end of the day, is what separates you is that work. That work separates you. And the type of team that you build around you allows you to navigate well what it is that you do, so that you have people that navigate well what you need them to do, right? And they cohesively form a team around you that help you to become a better version of yourself, your company to become a better version of itself, because a company is dynamic, meaning that it changes day to day. Because the circumstances in our environment that our company's in changes day to day. In an example, the pandemic, or an example going from a man manager to a woman manager, right? I mean, we are in Women's History Month. So the question is as women, how has emotional intelligence allowed us to not only be great leaders, but to thrive regardless of where it is you are at the company or what position you hold?
And shout out to Tiffany for pointing that out, because all about the group you surround yourself with. And believe me, if I didn't have Anna in that situation to help me become the type of leader that she needed me to be, I may not be able to become the leader I am today. And it goes even further than that. Well, the leader that I am still growing into today, like, let's be humble, ego tech. All right. So then at the same time, who are you around? Are they working on their emotional intelligence? Are they making themselves vulnerable for improvement? Do they want to grow into a different version? I don't want to say a better version, but a different version of themselves that helps them become the individual or professional they want to be. So it's not just learning from the group that you're leading, but learning from the people you're surrounding yourself with. You know, are they talking about past stuff, or are they talking about future stuff? And are they lamenting, or are they growing, or are they resenting, or are they responding? You know, so it's all that, making sure the people we interact with also help grow, and then maybe impressing those around us to, come on, there's so much room on this train. Come on this train. Let's go.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm like,
and Sharon, you do that so effectively.
I am like, let's go. Let's go. I don't feel like there's only room for one. I don't. Like, what are you talking about? There's only room for one. There's more than enough. There's room for more than one on my block alone. Like, there's not just room for one. And everything Sarah just said, I love to try to make things catchy so you get the whole concept without having to remember. Evaluate your amen corner, and evaluate your expectations of an amen corner. If you expect everybody to blindly just support what you said because
I said it,
you're my friend, yeah. Or okay, in the workplace, I'm the boss. Okay, so everybody just goes with you, and they know it's not going to work. You're a brand new leader. They know it's not going to work, but because you're the boss, if they offer feedback and it's considered a threat, then yeah, you know, evaluate what your expectations are of an amen corner. I have friends that I won't even share things with. They great friends, and they will, as I like to say, they will cut for me. They will go to war for me. They love me. They want the best for me. But I have friends that I won't discuss certain things with at all, because I know emotional quotient, like EQ is a real thing. And I, as a woman navigating leadership, visibility, different things now, there are certain times like that approach doesn't work here. And so as we get to the end of this has been great. I think we got one commercial and one PSA, but this has been nuggets. Listen, women out there, men too, whatever, man. Download this and play this in your ear, because emotional intelligence is required. I don't care what you want to call it. Get to know what it is. It is required for you to have sustainable success and growth in your career ladder, whatever that is, whether it's business or workplace or relationships, whatever. Visibility increases. You know what that means? More people are going to lie on you. Also, more people are going to be open to hear what you have to say, but with leadership comes lying on you. I'm sorry if it didn't. I'm sorry if you didn't think about that in the honeymoon phase. You know what I'm saying? People are going to lie on you. People are going to misunderstand your intentions, and you can't internalize that. You can reflect on it internally, but you can't only identify like that is me, or they did that and now it's war for 50 years. No, emotional intelligence is let Anna pull you to this, you know, let Anna tell you the truth and don't try to have her fired the next day. Can we just, you know, don't be spiteful. Okay, hot seat question. All of y'all look like y'all have something to say. Jump in. The conversation is good, so I'm in it too. I'm supposed to be asking questions. Marjorie, Tiffany, y'all look like y'all had something on your mind. Anything?
I just had a question for everyone. Like, I'm going to play my LaWayne Perkins card. Hi, y'all. So I want to ask if you all could give one word to a person, to a young woman who is in process of becoming in their journey, I guess, in their journey, their career journey. What is one word that you can give them to have in their toolbox that they are always going to need?
Okay, let's go me, Sarah, and then Marjorie, because I just know, I already know Marjorie got the fire. My one word is hold. Keep going. Keep chopping wood. Hold. That's it. Sarah.
Time. You don't have to have everything all at once if you know where you're going.
Marjorie.
Resilience. You're going to screw up, learn from it, and move forward.
Yes. And my word would be, I think, to me, tenacity, right? I think that what I'm learning, I always say learning because I've never learned, right? But I just think that is such a gracious thing to have, right? in knowing that is regardless of how many times you fall down, like dust yourself off, keep going. Like the only thing that's promised is change. Change is going to occur with or without us, right? It's about how you adapt to it, how you respond to it, and how you bask in it. So I think that a tenacious woman is a woman that is on her way, right? Because she's in progress. And that progress is at your own pace. When you figure out, like you said, Sarah, it's about the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like you said, Marjorie, and Sharon, it's about making certain that you understand what tools need to be in your toolbox to be a successful woman navigating your own personal space that you choose to. Because we are all I think that we all have the opportunity to create the life that we want to live and become the leaders that we want to be under our own circumstances in our career path or out our career path.
All right, guys, I do want to give us all an opportunity to answer this hot seat question. You may or may not weigh in on it, but when did you first experience that the work industry or the world, if you're in business, felt that a man would be a better fit for the position you were interested in? Please, no names of anything, say cities maybe, or years, just for litigious purposes, I don't want to go to court. So, and if you haven't, then that's fine. But when that woman definitely was like, yeah, women don't work together, like she wasn't thriving, but you know what she was a survivor. She, and that's what her fact said. So when did you all first experience that? This is our last question. This is the hot seat question. With hot seat questions, you may or may not weigh in. That the work industry or world felt that a man would be a better fit for the position you're interested in or the role you had been hired for.
So I'm going to answer that, but I'm going to take it a little sideways. I apologize in advance, but I will be quick. I promise. So I started as a leader when I was in my low 20s. I was a manager at 23. And my experience as a leader as a young female was very different than my experience today as a female leader. Initially, it was a lot of, who are you dating? How did you get ahead? It was a lot of that kind of gender bias is what I experienced when I was a young leader. And then now where I'm at in my current career path, I'm starting to see more systemic issues versus just kind of those early age gender biases. And it's more where I feel challenged that a lot of those higher level roles, things like COO and CEO, they're really geared towards people with a nursing background, which is very female focused, which is its own bias problem, or it's materials management, facilities, people with that background, which is very male dominated fields. So it's become interesting that when you start trying to break into that executive level, that there is some systemic gender biases built in place based on your background and career path. So I know that's a little sideways, but that's been kind of my experience.
I haven't really. So I want to say I haven't had the opportunity to see someone in direct leadership that was a female or female identifying in my professional career until very recently. And I've been in the profession for about 14 years so far. I love that. And then it was difficult for me because I didn't see that type of representation until very recently. And I don't know. I've never experienced actually trying to get a position that a person who was male identifying got over me. But at the same time, I have experienced that, any type of expression that I have that's non-conforming to what is considered professional, which itself is male dominating attributes that society has given them, not what they have chosen. So let's clear that up first. All right.
Yeah.
Anytime I expressed something outside of that lines, it was always like, this is why you don't, and it's, so I want to say that although I haven't experienced it directly, I know that there were certain opportunities that may have been remiss just because, or may have been overlooked just because of presentation was non-conforming to that which was dictated in that space. And it feels like a great relief now to see a lot of individuals that I see a lot of myself in, not just checking one box. We know it's like female and, you know, LGBTQ, and, you know, there's multiple boxes that can be checked at this point in time to help find better representation. And I think that I'm grateful for it now. I wish I had it sooner. But that's not to say without saying the support that I've had, even outside of those spaces, have not been beneficial.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany, you want to weigh in at all, or do you have a weigh in?
No, I just think that I have a background in entertainment, so it's always, I think that especially at the beginning of my career, it was always a male preferred. However, I think that that's never deterred me. I think you just gotta. I think regardless of what other people want, you have to do what, being true to who you are. Period. I think that you're equipped, you're enough, and you are adequately suited for the situation. So that I have not really been a person who, you know, a lot of people told me what I couldn't be. But you know, here I am. Voila.
Watching, and they're watching you
Look,
be
and
it.
I am definitely knowledge. Boop, boop. But I am about that nonsense too a bit, right? So I think that it's just about, you know, rolling with the punches. Like, people are going to always want to tell you who you can and cannot be. You just have to genuinely and authentically and on purpose be you. I think that God will put a lot of people around you that will help you build you and help you to become that woman that you need to be. At an age where women are still not getting equally paid, even though we're doing, I'm not going to say a better job, but we're doing a better job. You know what? At the end of the day, is I'm really glad to see
I say
US, you know, and I feel like just being able to see in this lifetime the U.S. women's soccer team get paid the same, like, that's a big deal, you know. Them girls really went to bat, and it's not about the soccer team. It's about the fact that, guess what, is every single one of you men have came from a woman, right? Why would you not, the people in you that you love, whether it be your mother, your wives, your daughter, why would you not want them to be in the same space as you financially so that they can thrive just like you, right? So I think on Women's History Month, we all have to say is can we, you know, make a pledge to be the best version of ourselves so that we can turn around and pave the same pathway that other women, you know, there wasn't for us, you know, I mean, for us, there's been other people that have carved their pathway for us to get right here, right? Sure. And so we just got to remember, we are paving the pathway to someone else's dreams, desires, and intentions, right? So regardless if it's in sterile processing, regardless if it's in, you know, media, at the end of the day, is our presence matters.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I always wanted to be wider behind me. I do. I know what it means. You know, I want it to be wider behind me. If you're from rural Oklahoma, you know, your little tractor trailer, then you got the thing that's wide behind it, mowing the grass. So I want it to be wider behind me. I love that. I love what you said. Hey, it is Women's Month. I'm loving this conversation. I don't even want to stop it. I was so tired. I was like, let me get my coffee and my water, you know, and it's 7 a.m. where Marjorie is. But this has been absolutely amazing. Thank you all so much, guys out there, women and men. Play it over and over. You know, a lot of people are like, I don't have time to invest. I don't have money to invest. Whatever. You're in leadership. For you and for others, put this stuff in your ear. Let it mull around in there. It's okay. Like Sarah said, time. You won't get all of this in one session. It was a lot said today. Life-changing, trajectory-changing things. Play this over and over. This has been absolutely amazing. Thank you, ladies, so much. Women's Month, crush it. As you said, we all came from a woman. That's just cognitive dissonance. Yet somehow, after a certain age, society, not them, but society has said, this woman that you run to for everything automatically somehow has become like incapable of doing what are you talking about? This is the woman you're working next to also in the workspace. So this has been amazing. This has been amazing. Y'all dropped it today. Any last words before we go? Because it's 11 minutes after. We're about 9 minutes over in the show, but it's so worth it. I don't care. It's worth it. Thank you. Y'all have any words you want to share before we bounce? Before we bring the show to the expected conclusion? Any words?
If I may, I'd really like to thank all of you guys for just having me and creating this type of space within an industry of, frontline professionals trying to do what they need to do in order to show up in an authentic way that feels like them. And remember, authenticity isn't just saying, well, this is me. Authenticity is that deep dive into defining who is me and how do I want to show up. And I think that Knowledge and Nonsense does an amazing job to make sure that we are held accountable to ourselves in real, physical, tangible ways to grow and strategize how we want to present emotionally, physically, and most of all, professionally. Am I right? Because let's be real. Professional pays the bills. Okay. So with that being said, I'm stoked. Thank you guys so much. I really had a good time and I love all the knowledge. And, like Tiffany said, don't forget to make room for the nonsense every now and then.
Every now and then.
All
right, ladies. Tiffany, thanks for co-hosting. Y'all be safe. God bless. Enjoy this weekend. If there's anything I can do for you, you know what to do. Give me a call. Hit me in Messenger. I'm sorry, I'm talking to the panel. The rest of you too, please text 214-717-5921. But for you ladies, get at me. I'm here to support in any way I can. Y'all be safe. God bless. And
God bless. Have a good weekend.
Bye.